Okay, this is Jacob Schmidt with DeerHuntingSchool.com, doing a video analysis of a property here. And Phil, I want to thank you first off for letting me take a look at your property here, and hope I can help you out on it a lot. It's a really nice looking property. It's got some really cool features. It's got some key features and things that really make it a good property to hunt. Okay, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit. In your emails you sent me, you were kind of worried about you were sending me too many emails. Doesn't bother me a bit. It actually it kind of gives me, when you do that, it kind of lets me see how you're thinking and in your thought process a little bit, and kind of feel out. And I know you said you was new to hunting and everything, so hopefully I can help you out, and I really think I can really help you out on this property a lot, and get you towards where you need to be, to have some success on this property. So some of it, there's like you talked about in the rifle hunt. You're talking about you're going to sit up on the road, looking, glassing out for a long distance and everything in the 10 days of the rifle season, where you can really cover some ground. There are advantages to having a rifle and using the distance, because obviously you can cover some distance with a rifle. But I will say this, on this property here could be bow hunted really well. It's got some really nice funnels on it, and it's got some unique features that make them funnels really good. So I'm a close range guy. I mean, I that's why I like to bow hunt so much. And I've killed deer with rifles, and honestly, almost every deer I've ever killed my entire life. I mean, I can count on probably one hand the amount of deer that have been out of bow range that I've killed my entire life. We're talking gun and everything. And just honestly thinking about it right here, I can only think of one or two deer that I've killed that's been out of bow range. So I'm really a close up guy. I really like getting in close on them. And this property has that feature. So there's nothing wrong with taking advantage of a rifle. I mean, if I was rifle hunting and I'm setting up for rifle hunting and things like that, I always look for spots that you can use that distance as an advantage. Very good thing. Now, the only problem with a property like this is you've got a lot of fields. That's where a lot of guys make, in my opinion, probably one of the biggest mistakes. And anybody else that's watching this video here is going, hopefully you guys can learn a lot, and thank Phil for letting us all kind of, have a lesson on his property and things. So the problem with a lot of guys when it comes to rifle hunting is they use these big open fields, and it's fine, if it's really low pressure. But if there's much hunting pressure around, them deer will avoid them fields, especially your more mature bucks, for the most part, after the first couple days of hunting. So I like to really get back in the woods and hunt them on their funnels and things like that, especially when you're talking the rut. I don't know exactly what time that your 10 days of rifle season is in November, but you did say it was in November. There was 10 days of rifle season in November, and 3 you guys will be hunting. Okay. The thing is depending on the time of November, it makes a huge factor, and I'll explain it kind of real quick here. And this is invaluable right here, because the rut is kind of, there's phases of the rut, I guess you could say. In November, I break it down really to about three phases. I watch Drury a lot. I really like their show. I mean, kill some big deer, and it's very entertaining and stuff. they break the entire deer season down into 13 phases. If you ever watch 13, so I watch it, I record it and watch it all the time. But I don't really see 13 phases, but you know, you could break it down into 13. You could probably break it down into 20 if you wanted. But in the rut, I definitely see 3 or 4 phases, but there's mostly 3. There's like the seeking, and then the chasing, and then the tending, or the main breeding phase, and then it kind of reverts around and you have the chasing and the seeking. So the rut kind of does like this. I mean, it's kind of goes up, winds up, winds up, winds up, and then it kind of comes down, 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 down. Now this line here is kind of the breeding that I drew. Okay, it's kind of like the breeding. Okay, now the buck movement is opposite of the breeding. Okay, and I'm going to change colors on that. So like this is the amount of does that are in heat. The blue line is. So the buck movement in the rut now is like this. It's higher, higher, higher. This is the amount of ground that they're covering, and it drops down. It drops down. It's actually opposite of the amount of does that are in estrus. And it kind of curves back up like my mouse is hitting the dang thing. So my mouse is hitting something, so it's hard for me to draw there. It does something like that. Okay, so and in reality, this would be before the rut. I mean, it actually, you know, does something like so. Okay, that would be like the buck movement, you know, and this is the amount of ground that they cover. Is something like so. Okay, before the rut, early season, they're really in a really tight area here, and then as you get towards the rut, okay, and date wise on this for most of the country, okay, here where you're at here, Phil, these dates are going to be pretty accurate. Okay, some of you guys that are watching this, you may be living really in the South. These dates are going to be off. I mean, they could be, you know, like if you get in southern Mississippi, I have a buddy that's down there. He may watch this video and he'll know who he is if he does. And his rut is Christmas. I mean, we're talking Christmas time. You know, December when all this is taking place in plumb in January. But most of the United States, we're talking a November rut. So if you are watching this and you have a December rut, you're going to put a month off. If you have a January rut, it's 2 months off. But it's going to be kind of the same thing, okay? So for most of the country, this peak, change colors again. Go to yellow here. This part right here where this really ramps up right here, and in this area, this time frame right in here, this is about that. This would be like right around November, right around Thanksgiving, Halloween, that last few days of October, the last few days of October, maybe even the last week of October. I mean, we're talking right here. Okay, this would be that time frame, and then that seeking phase takes place through about the first week of November. Now, I say the seeking phase, but anytime during the rut, there's always bucks that will be in the seeking phase. There'll be some that are seeking, some that are chasing, and there's some that's tending. Anytime there's a doe in estrus, there's going to be a buck breeding her, actively breeding her. There's going to be bucks chasing, and there's going to be some that are seeking. Okay, but for that early part of November, that last few days of October, the first, 5, 6, 7 days of November, most of your buck activity is going to be seeking. So during that time, they're covering a lot of ground. Okay, they're really covering a lot of ground. They're in their home range. They're all over it, and they're really covering their home range a lot. Now they'll have core areas that they visit they frequent a lot. They're moving a lot during the daytime. During that time, what they're doing is they're looking for estrus does. There are estrus does in the area, 1, 2, and then you may have 10 bucks trying to breed them 1 or 2 does. Okay, so there's a lot of frustration going on, and as you get in, towards that November the 5th, 6th through about the 14th or so. You get into that second week of November, pretty much. I'd say on average, November the 6th, 7th, somewhere in there, to about the 15th, 16th of November, somewhere in that time frame. That's pretty close. It's going to be a little different. And weather will dictate how much movement that you'll see a lot of times. The rut's going to take place. Weather will dictate to an extent. Your cold fronts, when it's nice and cool, cold front come through, your deer movement's always going to be a little bit better for the most part. So that dictates a little bit. But during that, that let's just say the 6th through the 16th, there's 10 days there. That's pretty close. Most of November, most of the United States, the bucks are, say here's about the 6th. That's that chasing phase where there's a lot of chasing going on. And the reason for that is there's a lot more does in their estrus, a lot more does that are really getting close to estrus. Okay, so they're really starting to really smell good to the bucks. So they're going in instead of just checking every bedding area, every food source. They're actually going into them. They're investigating. They're chasing them does around. They're harassing them more because they're smelling closer like estrus. And that depends on, that's all has to do with how many does are in estrus at that time. So if you have, so at that time you may say you have 10 bucks in that square mile, or in this home range, or in your this working your property or whatever, and you have 4 does that are in estrus. Okay, so 4 of your bucks are tending at that time, and then you may have 4 of them that are chasing and really hardcore, and you may have 2 that's seeking or something like that. And at that time, a lot of the does are starting to really smell good. Okay, so they're still covering a lot of ground because they're still going from doe group to doe group. They're chasing a lot, but they're spending a lot more time where the does are instead of just going from, say, a bedding area here to a bedding area here to a bedding area here, and just checking every bedding area and keeping on moving. They'll hit this bedding area and they'll chase the doe around for a little while, and they'll harass her, and then maybe he'll get run off by another buck or something, and then he'll go to seeking a little bit, and boom, 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 boom. Okay, so that kind of takes place. Now in the tending, this is just majority that you have the tending, and that's the active breeding. At some point, most places in the United States, what happens is you have more does than you have bucks. Okay, you may have 2 does for every buck or 3 does for every buck. When you have an offset buck to doe ratio, or 4, 5, 6, the higher it is, the worse the rut is, truthfully. Because if you have, say, 10 does for every buck and they're all coming in estrus at the same time, you may have 30 does in estrus ready to be bred for 10 bucks that are walking. So every single buck has 3 does that he needs to breed. There's not going to be any chasing or seeking or anything going on. There's too many does in estrus. But now if you got like 2 or 3 does for every buck, it's still intense, and there'll still be a little bit more thing. But at some point, most places in the United States, at some point, there's a doe or a doe or 2 for every single buck that's in the area that's in estrus. So every adult buck, there's a doe in estrus for every one of them, for most places in the United States. And when that takes place, the bucks are locked onto the does. So it's basically like early season. So early season for bucks is bed, they bed here, and they feed here. Okay, and that's all they care about. It's bed to food, bed to food, bed to food, back and forth. And it's a small area that they cover early season. That's why early season is a really good time to kill a buck. The problem is, the only way you're going to kill him is if you get in that really small area that he lives in, or that his core area, because that's the only place he's going to be. And it's usually a bachelor group. You got to get in this really small area, really tight area. A lot of times when you have a lease like this, or a farm, that's not really big. A lot of times there's not even a bachelor group bucks on the property. You know, I hunt large pieces of public property. There's always bachelor groups on every property I hunt because every one of them has got multiple bachelor groups. So it's easy for me to find them. If you've only got 100 acres, there's a good possibility that in the early season you won't have a single buck step on your property. And that's not a big deal. Just you have to hunt that property accordingly. Okay? And wait for the rut because they're gonna come on the property. Those are gonna come in estrus. They're coming on there. So when they get to this tending phase, they're in the same pattern except for it's the doe's pattern. Okay, so in the tending, the main breeding, the bucks are with the doe. She beds here, she feeds here, she lives in this little, 50-acre area, and that's just where she spends her life. He's going to stay in that 50-acre area until she goes out of heat. And as soon as she does, he's going to immediately go to seeking. So that's the good thing is anytime in a rut, there's a chance that a buck could immediately go to seeking. Okay, so he goes to seeking, he's looking out for another doe. So there's a good chance that he could. So there's different stand types of locations to hunt during this time. And the reason I'm covering this is because you have several of these on this property. Okay, so basically the seeking, then the chasing, and then the tending. Okay, so it goes back. I had the C and the S here because as it starts winding down, there's less and less and less does. So the bucks, there'll be more chasing towards the tail end of the rut. And this tending phase, for the most part, is about, I would say, like the 16th through about Thanksgiving, maybe a few days after Thanksgiving. And then as you start getting that last couple days of November to early December, you have that a lot of guys call it the second rut, but it's actually, the rut is actually winding down, but there's less does in estrus than there are bucks to breed. Okay, so they're still wanting to breed. They're still smelling does that are in estrus. There's still a rut going on. So there's that their actual movement increases, and then it winds down towards the end of the rut, and all they care about is bed food. The bucks do. Okay, so during this seeking, okay, you want to be hunting areas. Bucks are moving. I mean, they're moving the most. They're covering the most area that they will cover all year long during the seeking phase. They're covering the most ground per day. Okay, on average, they're going to cover the most ground, the most mileage they're going to put on their hooves in a single day during daylight hours when you can hunt. They're going to do it during this seeking phase. So you want to hunt things like areas where bucks are likely to come through. A lot of times, if you're hunting with a bow, you want to hunt really tight funnels. So funnels are really great during this seeking phase. Another thing that's good, water holes are good. Water holes are good anytime during the rut, especially during that chasing and that seeking, because the bucks are walking, they're covering a lot of ground, they need a little bit more water. A lot of guys just think of it as just a early season, and I hunt ponds a lot in the early season, and have good success. But there's bucks hit water holes probably more often in the rut than they do in the early season, because they're covering so much ground. So you want to hunt funnels, watering holes. You want to hunt downwind, the downwind edges of bedding areas, doe bedding areas. You want to hunt downwind of it because a lot of times the bucks will circle downwind of doe bedding areas. Okay, and you really want to hunt funnels that connect bedding area to bedding area. So you want to hunt funnels that connect bedding areas to bedding area. Okay, now during this chasing phase, okay, in the daytime when you can actively hunt, most of your does will be in their bedding during the day. Okay, and what happens most of the time, from my observation, for the most part, there's a lot of movement very early in the morning. Okay, and then you have like some slack time, like at 9, at 8, 9, 10 o'clock, things kind of die down. And then a lot of guys go in. They go in, and they're eating and everything. But what's so crazy is the deer move in the middle of the day during that time. It's not like in the mornings, but they'll move. Okay, and what happens a lot of times is early in the morning, that first hour or two, all them deer are headed towards the bedding area. A lot of times the big bucks are already in the bedding area when it turns daylight. They're within their bedding area or very, very close to it, and they get in there and they bed down. Okay, so guy hunts, and he gets down and he leaves. Okay, well, a lot of times these bucks will get up in the middle of the day in the bedding area and they start checking and chasing these does around in the daytime. Okay, because that's where the does are. Now, if you think about the deer, the does, let's just think about the does for a second. During the daytime, when you can actively hunt these deer, they spend 90%, or pretty dang close to 90% of their time is spent within 100 yards of a bedding area. Okay, so during this chasing phase, you want to be hunting very, very close or within the bedding area during this chasing phase, okay? Because the bucks will get up and they will harass them does. When they do, during the chasing phase, they're chasing them. She's going to run around. He's going to chase her around a little bit. There's a lot of rutting activity. The bucks fight. They spar. I mean, they get, a lot of that takes place within that bedding area. So you want to hunt very close to the bedding areas, if not within them. Okay, the one problem, you got to be really careful on a smaller property like this. And I say smaller, and I'm not meaning that it's a small property. It's that it's not so big to where you can go hunt one bedding area, spook all the does in there, and then you can go hunt another one, spook all them does, go hunt another one, spook all them does. You can't do that. I mean, you're limited. I have one public property I hunt it's actually like 1.2 million acres. So, I could never hunt all them doe bedding areas. I could never spook every deer in there. Probably never in a lifetime. There's no way. It's too big, okay? That's what I'm talking about. I could go from one bedding area. I can go right in the middle of their bedding area and hunt. Does bust me out. I put too much pressure on it. I just switch to another one the next day. Switch to another one the next day. Or I hunt them. A lot of times I'll hunt them a couple days, and then I'll go to another one. Hunted a couple days, go to another one. Okay? On a property like this, you got to be careful. So you may want to just hunt really, really close to the bedding areas. Okay? During that chasing phase. And then you get into that tending phase, and that's just really, it's bingo. There's no telling. There's absolutely no telling where the buck's going to be, what doe he's going to be tending. He's going to be breeding a doe somewhere. Okay, there's just really no telling. And at that time, you can hunt close to the bedding areas, hoping that you can catch a buck that's chasing some does around, or maybe he'll be with a doe, or move past you. You can hunt funnels. You can hunt your seeking type stuff, hoping that one will come off of a doe, and he'll go to seeking. That's a lot of times what I do during that time. I'll just hunt something. I'll hunt a pond, hoping that either a doe will come in there that's got a buck on her, or a buck that's covered a lot of ground will come in there to drink some water or something. Okay, so there's no wrong place to hunt during that time. It's tough. The bucks aren't covering a lot of ground. They're with the doe back and forth where she goes, and they're just not covering a lot of ground. And that's just part of it. But that's a short time, and then they revert back to as more does got estrus. So, with all that said, here, you have a funnel right here on your property. Okay, you have an awesome funnel right here. Okay, your stands that you had set up, all your scouting and stuff was here. Okay, you have this whole area here is a small thin funnel right here. But I would concentrate on something like maybe like right here, which that's off the property. Well, you can't hunt that. So your funnels, your really tight funnels, your really good funnels, you have one here, and you have one right here. Okay, and these are your really your really tight funnels. Okay, now all this area down through here, you just have to look at it and just see what you got there. You got a ditch or a little creek or something that runs through here, or a road or something. Depending on what that is, because this picture, well, no, this picture's recent. This is this was May of this year, so this picture's only a few months old. So this is a really recent picture here. So all this is corn. Okay, this is corn. Once this corn is harvested, these fields are useless for the most part. Once it's harvested, and it's gone, they're not going to bed in it. Okay, right as long as that corn's standing, there's always potential that deer could be bedded in there. Once it's harvested, I say it's not useless. Deer can feed on some of the left drop corn or whatever. But I mean, it's useless for bedding. It's an open field. They're not going to bed in there. So once it's harvested, it takes out all that area for them deer to bed, and it's going to push them deer into these other areas to bed for sure. Okay, now they may feed out in there and stuff and things, but it's going to push them out. Okay, so if the corn is standing, they can be bedded anywhere in the corn. Okay, and that's gonna actually make this property tougher to hunt with this corn standing. Once that corn's harvested, this property is going to get a lot easier and a lot better to hunt. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here on some of this, and I want to talk about just a little bit. Okay, one thing that I see a lot is mistakes that people make when they look at an aerial photo like this here. When they're looking at habitat, they see like this right here being all real thick, and they think, well, that's thick woods. Most of the time, these are really open. When you see big trees like this, it's really open. Okay, underneath it, there's a big heavy canopy, and then you see stuff like this right here, and you go, well, that ain't nothing but a field. That's just open field right there. And this right up through here is absolutely opposite. This right here is thick, and this is really thick. Or should be. I haven't wrote it back in time, but this should be very, very thick, difficult to walk through. This should be like prime bedding. And deer, a lot of times, this is one thing that you can learn from this video. Anybody can. And you feel a lot of times when you have these bends like this, these points, when you have a river or creek or something that bends like that inside point, a lot of times them are really thick. A lot of times, I say almost always, not almost always, but a lot of times they're really thick bedding areas. Deer bed on them. And then it bends back. You have a funnel a lot of times right here. This enhances the funnel because most creeks and rivers and things, when they bend like that, you have a one-sided funnel. This one's not. This is a two-sided funnel because of the railroad tracks. Now, obviously, the deer can cross the railroad tracks, but this is creating a funnel. So a deer that's coming out of this bedding area to come and check this bedding area, okay, they have to come up through here. So that's creating a really nice funnel. This should be a very good stand location, especially during the rut. During that seeking phase, this should be a very good stand location. It's got good access. I don't know. I know this isn't part of the property. I'm assuming, I don't know if I'm correct or not, I'm assuming that this is probably who you're leasing land front's house or whatever. And if it's not, that's fine. But if you have a stand right here, you can access this thing. You could come in here, but this looks like it's pretty thick, so you could kind of come in here, hit the railroad track, come in, hit your stand, get out. Okay. Now, one thing is a lot of guys really get worked up about like this, wind direction. But the thing is, okay, and they're like, well, I don't want the wind to blow this way because there's bedding area there. I don't want the wind to blow this way because there's a bedding area there. I don't want it to blow in here in the mornings because deer are going to be feeding in here. The problem is in the rut, there's no telling where that buck is. When you come in there, there's no telling where he's at. So you have to throw that part of it. You don't want to blow all your deer out, but a buck that, I'm going to zoom out here real quick. These bucks are covering a lot of ground. So when you come in here, however early you are to access your stand or your ground blind, you said you're just going to set up a lot of ground blinds. I like building ground blinds. I don't like the pop-up blinds much. Unless you put them in and leave them there for a long time. They might work pretty good, but deer see them suckers in a heartbeat. I've had guys that say, oh, deer don't seem to bother them, but I'll tell you what, every dadgum deer I've ever had come by them, and I've had a lot of them, have spotted them things so fast, it ain't funny. Unless they come by at a pretty good distance, they spot them. I mean, bow hunting, I'm trying to think. I haven't had many deer. I'm trying to think if I've ever even had bow hunting any deer that didn't spot them and bust me out. I mean, they spotted the blind and just I've had a lot of deer see the blinds. The pop-up blinds, I've had a lot of deer see them. That's just all I can say, period. I'm trying to recall of some times where I had good hunts out of them. Had some good hunts, seen some big bucks out of them. I don't think I've ever even, I don't even know. I've killed a doe or two with a rifle out of ground blind. My oldest boy killed a deer out of a ground blind that was fairly close in bow range, and it was his first deer. And it was a young deer, a yearling, and it seen the ground blind. And he shot it with a muzzleloader, and it was, 30, 40 yards away. I really can't think of a time off the top of my head that the deer didn't see it. So I like to build a ground blind. Now, I know that I've seen some guys set them up and leave them setting for a while, and the deer get used to them. So, I mean, you can try that. That would be a good spot for building a ground blind or having a deer stand or putting a blind, and letting it sit there for a while to let the deer get used to it. Okay. Now, one thing I want to talk about with the wind here that's really good is a spot like this. You can actually set up a couple different ways. On a northerly wind, you can set close to the creek or the river, whatever this is. And on a southerly wind, you can set closer to the railroad tracks. Now, one problem with this is probably going to be a nerve-wracking spot because the train's coming by, but it's not going to bother the deer. They're going to be used to it. They're going to, hear them all the time. You got a bedding area here. You've got another bedding area down in here, connecting, so that's a funnel that's connecting two bedding areas. And that is a really nice looking spot. It just is. Okay, this is another one of them spots in the chasing phase that would be good. if you don't want to bust your deer out because you got bedding areas close by. So there's a good chance the buck will get chasing doe and she'll run up through this funnel. Okay. So that's one spot that this is the kind of spot right here. A lot of times you look and I can talk about a lot of things that applies to a property, but there's sometimes you can't say. You can say, well, if you watch a lot of my videos, there's some of my video analysis I can't pick a actual stand location. I mean, obviously I can't pick one of the trees, from the aerial photo. That's obvious. I can't tell you which tree to hunt, but that's a stand location. Period. That's a spot you get in there, trim you some shooting lanes, and you should kill deer in there, especially during that seeking phase of the rut. You should kill deer in there. Now, you could possibly kill deer in there early season too, but the problem with early season is to kill a buck, you've got to be where they are. I would not come in here and hunt this unless there were very fresh rubs coming through there that let me know that, hey, there's big rubs early season, like here in a couple weeks. I would not hunt that at all. I wouldn't even be there unless there were just big chewed up rubs, fresh rubs that let me know, hey, there's a buck there. There's a big buck there, and that's where he's living. And the best way to see that, to know if you've got a buck in the area, is fresh big rubs or fresh rubs early season. If you find fresh rubs, you're in his core area, period. They're early season. They are so tight to a spot that when you find them fresh rubs, you're in his bedroom. He's there. He lives. Most of them will live. All deer are different, but a lot of them deer will live on a 30, 40, 50, 100-acre spot area, and they don't come out of it. They just live there, and they're always going to have food, water, and cover in that area. This is one of them spots. I mean, I could see a bachelor group bucks hanging out right in here. They have food, they have water, and they have cover. Okay, they have the crops, they have the water, they have all kinds of browse, they have very good cover here. I could see a bachelor group of bucks here. I could see them here. I could see them anywhere on this property. It's a good-looking property. They have everything they need. And then this one here is no different. Well, I say no different. It is different, but it's got. When I look at this here, I see nice thick stuff. I see water close by. There's food. You've got oaks. You've got acorns all around. This is a really nice looking funnel. Very. And another thing, not only is it a funnel, but it's on the corner of this field, where a lot of times these bucks will come down really nice. This looks like it's really, really thick right here. Okay. All this up in here. And I know that's the neighbor's property. Doesn't matter. Them deer are going to come through here. So you've got this corner of this field, and then you've got this little funnel here. And then you have this corner of this field here. So that's a nice looking spot. Right in there somewhere should be a stand location, blind location, whichever. And this is the same thing. Now once these fields are cut, it makes it where you can use these fields as an area for your scent to blow. So like on a southerly wind, like a south, what would it be? Oh my gosh, got my directions messed up. It'd be a southwest, like on a southwest. The wind's coming like from here. If this field's been cut, you could set your blind or your stand as far north as you could without getting off the property. It looks to me like the property line. By looking at the map, it looks like the property line's actually like right here. It looks like there's a little, like there may be either a little trail or a fence line or something running down there. I could be wrong, but going by what you sent me on the property line, I know it's right in there somewhere. But as far north as you could, on a northerly wind, You know, you want to get as far down here as you can and get set up. Real quick, I just want to measure this. What in the world? Oh yeah, that's easy bow shot all the way across that sucker, nearly. So, anyways, so that's a good stand location, and then I'm not sure. I know I'm looking at the neighbor's property here. This looks another like one of them CRP. This whole area looks like CRP to me. We're going to roll it back just a little bit. And I'm talking about this. This looks really nice and thick down through here. I know that's old road or something, but that looks thick. So it looks like you should have bedding, and a little funnel right in between. Now they may cut here. They may cut that field a little bit, but a lot of times they'll stay in this thick cover. So what we're looking at is this area here. And I'm going back in time here to see what that is. See, that looks like just some really thick, good looking stuff. See, and then you see up in here, anytime when you see trees like this and they're really thin, sporadic, that ground cover in between them is going to be thick. This looks like you should have some bedding here, and it don't have to be spots where bucks are bedded. It need in the rut. It needs to be when you're hunting these funnels. It needs to be spots where bucks are bedded. Okay, that's what kind of spots this needs to be. It's where bucks are bedded, not bucks, does. Sorry, you need where does are bedded in here. Does are bedding in this area, and bucks are going to go from here to here, checking them out. And see, it looks to me like that's that fence line right there. Now, I could be wrong. But as I zoom in on that, it looks like that fence line is right, like they got it right up to the edge of that field, which is nice because it just really makes a nice little funnel right here. You know, and there's probably going to be a lot of scrapes and stuff right in here on these edges of these fields, especially this one and this because it's real thick. And then you got another thick area right here, and that's not a very good picture at all. But anyways, let's go back. Okay. And here's our fields in crop. Yeah, see, this looks really thick to me too. This looks really good and thick down in here. So you've got some good cover. Looks like you might have a little bit right in here. Now, I know I'm not talking about this area here much because you've got trail camera and a couple stand locations already here in this. You got 2 trail cameras and stand locations right in this area. And to me, the best looking part of the property is what I'm talking about. Close to bedding areas. And stuff like that. And I'm going to talk about early season here in just a minute because I know you like to bow hunt. And us bow hunters, I mean, that's what we like is that early season. And there's a good reason to like it. And I'm fixing to share with you a tip that is absolutely, I talk about it in a lot of my courses. A few of my courses, I have an actual in-depth course about early season hunting bucks. So anyways, I just want to kind of look at this here, going back. I mean, that's definitely some looks like some warm season grasses or something in there. This looks nice and thick, got water. It looks like it should be nice and thick over here too because it's broke up. Anytime them trees are broken up like that, this looks nice and thick. Okay. And then again, all down here, this point looks nice and thick. This area in here looks good and thick. I mean, it just really looks good. This If this is not someone living here or something, this would be really thick. I'm not sure what that is. I'll zoom in on it in a second. In the newest picture. Okay. Oh, what the heck happened there? I don't know what happened there, but there's nothing. Oh, okay, there we go. This is the black and white of it back in there. I mean, you can see this. This is thick stuff. This is thick, and this is thick stuff right here. That's a thicket. And then it's thick right down in here, right on this river or creek, whatever that is. And also, too, all the way along that creek and river, a lot of times right on the edge of it, you're going to have really nice, really thick stuff. Okay? And bucks, especially your older bucks that are cruising, covering some ground, they love holding really tight to that thick cover. They do. They're cover oriented. White-tailed deer are cover oriented, and the older they get, most of the time, the more cover oriented they get. They want to be really close and tight to that cover. And I think that's one reason. A lot of times, deer, bucks will, during the rut, especially, they'll follow a creek or a river or something pretty close to it. And the reason is it leaves an opening where the sun can penetrate the ground right beside it, and it grows there. Almost always right on the river or creek bank is very, very thick for, 10, 15 yards or something. Right on the edge of it's thick, thick, thick. And them deer like that. They like that cover, okay? So that's when you look at this, that's just really enhances this area. Right in here should be really thick on this edge. There's a diverse habitat of food, a lot of browse right in there. Should be really nice. So so you could have, you have stand location. You could also possibly right in here somewhere. It looks like this is really thick, but right in here somewhere, looks like you could have another stand location. Okay, right in this area here, because you've got this bigger open area and this big part of woods. But actually, this looks like you could possibly have some really thick stuff. But there's possibility of something here that looks pretty good to me. You got a little bit more of a funnel there. Okay. So, as far as the features, that's what I see. And so now we've basically kind of covered the rut, kind of looked at some bedding areas, stuff like that. Let's talk about early season. Okay, you have corn. All this is corn, so deer could be bedded right now, unless he's harvesting his crops. A lot of times they may have already harvested them. They may be really close to, if not. So if they're not harvested, the deer can be bedded anywhere in the corn. So that's going to make it a little tougher to hunt the property. If they are harvested, then obviously the deer are going to be within the cover, which really concentrates the deer, which makes it a lot easier to hunt them. Okay, so let's talk early season real quick. We're talking here, like, I mean, today's like the 15th. It's the 15th today. So most of that's like I'd say for most of the United States, the 15th of September is like the halftime show of them shedding their velvet. Somewhere right in there. And in that time frame, that 15th, that's when they shed their velvet. From then till whenever your season opens, or I just talked to a guy yesterday or the day before, I done a constellation that his season opens like their season opened like a week ago. Okay, so anyways, if that's the case, then obviously the deer hadn't shed their velvet, but most places are shedding their velvet. This is a invaluable for a bow hunter information right here. The bucks shed their velvet. They live in a very, I done talked about it a little bit. I mean, the average size of a deer's home range is a square mile. But during that early summer, that's their entire home range. They disperse at about 1.5 years. They disperse again a little bit at 2.5 years old. But they don't disperse much that second time. They stay in their home range, but they actually set up their core area. So they have a home range of a square mile. That's their entire home range. That's the average size. Okay, so in the rut. That's their home range. They're not going to go out of that. But in that early season, they have a core area that some deer is 20 acres. Okay, I mean, they live on 20 acres and they don't step foot off of it. Some deer do not step foot out of that until the rut or until the food sources change, which happens usually in October. Okay, they don't come out of that. So in the summertime, they're there, they're living there, they're eating, they're sleeping there, and they're drinking there. They're always going to have food, water, and cover in them spots. Deer have to have three things. They have to have food, they have to have water, and they have to have cover. If they don't have all three of these, they cannot live there. Okay, or at least there won't be very many deer there. Very few deer. Because I have seen deer live places with no cover. Okay, but they have to have food. They'll starve to death, and they have to have water. They'll die of dehydration. Now, one thing that fools a lot of people: deer get like most of their water, like extremely, like 80% of their water comes from what they eat. So they don't drink like us humans. They don't like we have to drink. They can go a day or two without drinking. We can't. We'll be dehydrated. I mean, they could go like a week without drinking in some cases. Okay, we can't. We'll die. But deer won't. They get a lot of water out of the plants that they eat. Okay, so they don't need water like we do, but they have to have it. In a place like this, the bucks are gonna be where there's food, water, and cover. Okay, so that early season, middle of September, which is where we're at right now while I'm recording this video, the bucks are shedding their velvet. Okay, it's like the halftime show. Some of them's already shed, some of them are doing it right now, and then some of them are still to come to shed. But for the most of the United States, right now they're shedding. As soon as that velvet falls off, they start rubbing trees. Okay, so they live in a small area. I mean, they could live right there. You could have a bachelor group of bucks right there, and they're not leaving it. They live there. So the key to finding them, if you don't have them found, if you could set like over here on the side of this railroad track. If you were hunting this, obviously this ain't your property, but I'm talking. You can do the same thing on your property. You ain't gonna be able to do it because there's corn. But say this was soybeans here, you could set over here. Maybe you could get a tree to get up in, and you could glass this in the evening. And if there was, you could do it for an evening or two. If there was a bachelor group of bucks here, you would see them in the summertime come out. That's one way to find them. Trail cameras is a way to find them. It takes a lot of trail cameras a lot of times to find them. You got to run lots of trail cameras to find them. The easiest and the most efficient way to find them is do a lot of scouting. A lot of guys is no, don't scout early, don't do that, don't do that. Don't scout that time of year. You're putting pressure on your deer. And I'm not talking being stupid about it, but cover a lot of ground. If on a property like this, there's a possibility that there's no bucks on it. If there are bucks on it, you go find them fresh rubs, you set up on them, and then you kill one of them bucks. It's that simple. Early season, okay? If you have any public land, so say there's no bucks on this, find some public land that's close by you, around here, that you can hunt, that's a fairly large piece. Go find some fresh rubs on it and kill one of them bucks. Okay? If you're only allowed one buck, then wait till the rut, if you don't have it, and kill a buck during the rut. And we done talked about how you do that. But that early season, it is the best strategy, period, in my opinion, and in a lot of other guys' opinion, is the best strategy, is to go in and finding rubs in an early season, getting inside that deer's core area, getting within 100 yards of where he's bedded, getting in there and going in there and killing him. It's an aggressive hunting style. It's a buck slaying style with a bow. That's how you kill bucks with a bow. You get in their bedroom early season. Or you can wait till the rut and kill them. I try to do both because I'm a deer hunter. I'm out there to kill deer. I'm out there to hunt. I have huge pieces of public property. I live in Arkansas. It's like the number 3rd or 4th state for the hunting, for public land hunting. It ranks like it's one of the top 5 for public land hunting. We have a lot of public land, a lot of large areas of public property. I can think of 5 right off the top of my head that are over 100,000 acres. I know of 2 that's over 1 million acres. Okay, so I mean there's huge, vast amounts of public property here in Arkansas. There's a lot in a lot of states, but there's some of you guys don't have hardly no public property. And when that happens, sometimes you have to rely on understanding what's going to happen. Okay, and Phil, that's the reason I'm talking about this a lot, because this property is limited in size. And I don't want you to think that, okay, I don't have any bucks on here, say October 1st, if your bow season starts in. I don't even ask you when your bow season starts. Most people's place is started by October 1st or just before. Ours starts next Saturday, not tomorrow, but ours starts the 23rd of October. I don't want you to get discouraged if you go and you can't find a buck on this property, early season. It's still a good property. You can kill a good buck off here, I believe, every single year off this property. Now, I don't know who all is going to watch this video as far as that hunt with you. If you're going to share it with your hunting buddies, it's going to be more difficult because, to me, there's 2 prime stands on the property. There's 2 prime spots. One is here, and one is here. And you could get another good spot right in here, right down in here, and that depends on where the property line is. That there could be another pretty good spot down in here, south of this bedding area here, and possibly catch deer coming out into your neighbor's field and back, possibly. But this is going to be your best spots. And these are rut spots. It don't matter if it's morning, evening, you hunt. Rut, you hunt. You hunt it. You hunt it. You hunt it. Early season spots, you're looking for bucks that are bedded here, feeding here, and you get in between them. And how you find that route in between them is find rub lines or rubs. Don't have to necessarily be a line, but you find rubs early season. Once the rut comes in, forget about them rubs. They're useless. And anybody that's watching this, if you're unsure about stuff like that, I suggest you purchase the timing course that I have. It's on deerhuntingschool.com, or you can purchase the master course, which is a lot of information about deer hunting. And I'm going to be updating courses periodically, making them better, and actually doing more courses, making them better. So, anyways, I think this is a good property. Okay. If I know they're going to do crop rotations, Phil. So one thing I want to talk about real quick is when you do find if you find rubs and stuff and you find scrapes and things, say this is corn and this is corn, it would be good to print out maybe 2 aerial photos or something. Maybe make you do something to where you can have one map for when this thing is corn and this is corn, and then you have one when they plant this in beans and this in beans, or vice versa. Maybe they plant this one in beans and this one in corn, or they plant this one in corn and this one in beans. You may have to have a few different maps, because a lot of times when they do that, say they plant this in corn, they plant this in corn, then it's going to mess with where the deer bed in the summertime. Okay, so that early season, if this corn is standing, any rub lines you find, scrapes you find, things like that, there's a really good chance that the next time that the crops are rotated to this, there's corn and corn. Say there was a rub line when this was corn. Say there was a rub line, coming out through here. Okay. If that's the case, say this was beans. The deer were bedded here. The bucks were bedded here, and they're cutting out across here to feed these beans. Okay. That would be interesting to know, because the next time that rotation comes around, if this is corn and this is beans, there's a really good chance that this rub line is going to go hot again early season, and that you have a stand here to hunt. Okay. So say vice versa though. And I'm just throwing up a scenario here. Okay, but it's a true scenario. I mean, it's stuff that'll happen. It'll change the way deer use the property from one year to the next. Okay. Whereas if this was if they planted this corn every single year, it'd be the same every year, but they can't do that. They'll burn the nutrients up in the ground. Okay, they have to swap it to rest the fields. So say this is corn and this is beans. Okay, and then that year comes around and you say, well, there was a rub line, the same rub line. So say the rub line's there every year, and then there's another one here. Okay, there's 2 rub lines. Okay, well, this one, they're coming out of this corn here, and they're coming here in the evening to feed out the beans. So this is the rub line that they're using in the evening. You may have to have a stand here. And then, say you want to hunt it you want to hunt it in the morning, and you can get to it without blowing the deer out of the field. You would hunt here in the morning. Well, it may change when this here goes to beans, and this here goes to corn. They may use this one in the evening and this one in the morning. See, stuff like that, you make a couple ledgers, okay? Because there's a lot of times that them will stay they'll stay the same, okay? These funnels, they're not going to change unless they leave this standing corn. If they leave this standing corn, then and say this one's standing corn, then that funnel's not going to be there as well as it would be if this was cut and this was cut, because it's going to expose them deer out into the open more to walk out into here or here. Okay, This funnel's not going to change no matter what the crops are. That one's going to be there. And the reason is it may not be quite as enhanced, or may not be quite as many deer bedded here and bedded here if they're standing corn here, here, all over. Okay. These may not be quite as many deer, but there's still going to be a funnel there. Still should be a good stand location. Okay. So that's something to keep in mind, because say maybe one year they plant this beans, and I've kind of talked about it, and then this corn. The deer will bed out in here, and they may cut across here and feed. So that's something to have a different map of. You could have it printed out, take it somewhere, have them laminated or something. I like using Google Earth. I use Google Earth. I talk about it in my mapping course. I show kind of how I do it. I do a lot of it in my mind, but I do a lot of that. But I don't hunt. I hunt areas where there's white oaks. Just real quick, I'll explain this. And you also have oaks. You also have your oaks. The deer are going to feed in here and things. They're going to bed in here. They're going to feed out into these oaks and stuff. Okay, so you also have that here. This going to take, manage. But one thing that I hunt. I'm hunting. Say I'm hunting. I have a bedding area here. It's oak clear cut or something like that. And then I have a little white oak flat here, or something. I have a little band that kind of leads into that bedding area, a little bit of white oaks. There's a couple of white oaks right in here. That's my stand location. Okay. And I have these white oaks. So early season, I'm over here around this bedding area. I'm looking around this bedding area. I'm finding some rub lines here for whatever reason. The deer are coming out here, and they may be out here feeding on whatever, honeysuckle, whatever. It doesn't matter what they're feeding on, really. But there's some fresh rubs that I find early season, and I set up here and I hunt. And most of the time, I'll say most of the time, knock on wood, every single year for years and years, I have gotten bucks, good shooter bucks on public property in bow range by finding rub lines. And I say rub lines by finding fresh rubs in September, late September, and hunting them, setting up on them and hunting them. Every single year, it's invaluable. You couldn't even put a price tag on it. Okay, it's like money in the bank. It's that sure of a deal. And I will literally walk for miles and miles and miles to find that. And until I find it early season. My hunting season is, I have a hunting plan, and my first hunting plan is, where am I going to hunt? Open in the morning, open in the evening. It's usually a pond. I have a couple ponds that I like to hunt that there's a good chance that a buck will come to. I'll hunt them open in the morning, open in the evening. Sometimes I'll hunt them the second day. Then after that, I'm done. I'm going, or if I have a buck pegged, I found it easiest way to peg a buck is go search for him and find his rubs. I find the biggest rubs I can find. When I start finding big rubs, I know they're there. So, I find them here, so I hunt this. And then once these white oaks start dropping, I forget about this. He's not going to be there no more. He's not going to use this anymore. I come over here to where his rub lines were last year. And I already have stands set up on them. Or I have trees picked out, and I start hunting them. There's not even any rubs there when I start hunting them. And sometimes I shoot the deer before he ever even has a chance to make a rub on the fresh rub line. And sometimes I get busted out on them. That happened to me last year. I thought I was busted out, and I was resting the spot, and then the buck I was going to kill, he came the next day, was standing there 15 yards. Pictures of him showing off his big rack, and hope he's still alive. So, anyways, I got busted by one of the deer. I don't think they busted me, though. I think it was something else made them nervous. Might have been a bear in the area, but something was making them nervous. But I had one of them 20 yards behind a bush. And, anyways, so, that's deer hunting. And that happens a lot, too, that first week to a bow season. When I find them really fresh rubs, I mean, I get busted sometimes. I miss the deer. Sometimes I kill them. Okay, but I feel so confident in having bucks in bow range that it's insane. So that's how I would hunt this property. And Phil, don't get discouraged if you come in here, because it can be discouraging. You come in here and there's no bucks on the property. If there's not, it's not a big deal. They're going to come in the rut. You got those on the property. I think you're probably going to have bucks on this property most of the time. There's one, two. There's at least 2 good solid bedding areas on the property, and that's if you take the corn away. If the corn's there, then there's nearly the whole daggone property's bedding. Okay, and then there's two bedding areas really tight, close to the property. And then you also have this. Now, one thing I will say is you've got some like little miniature draws down here in these fields. You could catch some good deer crossing that in the rut in the rifle season. So you could catch them crossing that. But I'm still thinking, when I gave you them dates, when I talked about that rifle hunting and me being a close-up hunter, it's hard for me. You would have a hard time getting me to hunt an open field with a 30-06, 7mm, whatever, when I know that I have this beautiful funnel over here and this one over here, and that I honestly, it'd be hard for you to get me to hunt this open field when I know I have a river bottom right here, or creek winding through the edge of the property. I love hunting. I love hunting around a creek. That entire area right there would have my attention big time. Reason I love hunting around creeks and stuff like that is because deer love hanging around them. Okay. So that's that's how I see the property. Oh yeah, one other thing I was going to look at. That's what I see when I see the property. And in the topo, you've got a little bit of ridge. You've got some ridge. You've got a little bit of lay, but there's nothing massive. I got the topo right here. Part of it, anyways. So there's nothing here that's just, I mean, yeah, you got a little higher ground here out in this field. There's nothing really just super that just jumps out as far as topo. So for the most part, you're hunting a habitat on this property. You do have a slough up in here that runs up in here somewhere off this river, creek, whatever. So you do have a slough up in here. It's probably like some swampy type stuff. So you've got some bedding. I just, doesn't change, the topo does not change the way I look at this property any. If that makes any sense. So anyways, Phil, I hope I helped you out here a lot on this, and I wish you luck. If you have any questions, don't don't think that you're bothering me. Email me. I know sometimes it might take me a little bit to get back to the emails. I'm a very, very busy person. And hunting season's fixing to start, so I'll be doing a little bit of hunting along with me being so busy. But don't think that you're bothering me a bit. I don't mind emails. I have guys that's never even bought anything from me that email me, and I try to help them out. They'll ask me a question, I answer the question. Doesn't bother me a bit. I'm not doing this for the money. If it was about money, I own a tree service, and I don't. I'd be just total tree service with all I care about, because the money's no comparison. So it's more about helping other guys, but I do feel that I should be compensated for my time, and it costs me money, to keep the website up and things like that cost money. So there's overhead, the programs that I use to record this stuff cost money, and things like that. So it's not about the money. It's about helping guys out, and and I do the best I can with properties like this. So don't think for 1 minute that the emails that you sent me, I think you only sent me like 4 or 5. That was nothing. I mean, that doesn't bother me a bit. So if you have any questions, shoot me an email. Don't hesitate or think that you're bothering me. I actually, and if you have any success, please share the photo with me. I love seeing guys that's killed some deer. I've helped some guys out that's killed some bruisers. And I've helped some guys out that's killed their first buck that was a 6-point. And I just like seeing that. I like to see that, hey, this guy killed deer. It don't have to be a monster buck, there's guys that have had me look at videos for them that all they want to do was see a deer. Okay, so everybody's different. So if you have any success, let me know about it. If you have any questions or anything as the season goes on, if something stumped you, feel free to shoot me an email in the middle of the season if you got a question. That's fine. You're not bothering me. It may take me, especially when deer season opens. If I'm gone out hunting, I may be out for gone for 2, 3, 4 days, depending on when it is. So if you shoot me an email, I may not be able to get back to you for a few days because I'm not even in, where I can even send an email. I may be plumb off the grid somewhere, hunting. So, but feel free to shoot me an email, man. And I wish you luck. And, the other guys that you're hunting with, if you are kind of team hunting, I wish them luck. And if not, I still, hope they have some success. But if y'all aren't team hunting, I would keep these spots to myself. And, I'm not trying to say being greedy, but, in a way there is. And I'll tell you what, there's one more little semi-funnel here. The property kind of cuts it in half, though. But there's a little bit of a funnel there. You might just check that out a little bit. So if there's 3 of y'all hunting and y'all are team hunting, it gives you a few more spots. But if you're hunting by yourself and they're just kind of hunting by themselves, then I would keep these to myself and hunt them accordingly. So anyways, I wish you luck. I hope you the best. I thank everybody else that's watched the video. I thank you guys for watching it. And I hope you guys learned something. And I hope some of you guys can thank Phil for letting us post his video up here on YouTube, and we could all learn something from it. And anyways, I thank you guys for watching. I thank everybody. Check out deerhuntingschool.com for more tips, information, and things like that on deer hunting. Have a good day, and bye-bye.